Writing a winning response to a DOE Phase 1 SBIR or STTR funding opportunity announcement or FOA takes practice, patience, and a little luck. The goal of this video series is to glean insight and explore best practices from those who have spent years putting together proposals. Compact Membrane Systems has been writing DOE proposals since its founding in 1993. The father-daughter team located in Newport, Delaware employs 24 people and develops advanced materials with a suite of membrane separation technologies. We sat down with Dr. Stuart Nemser and Dr. Erica Nemser of Compact Membrane Systems to discuss in more detail the DOE proposal preparation process.
As soon as the solicitation comes out, we look at the list. After we look at the list, we then send it out to the program managers, and we then meet probably 2 days later and go through a diverging exercise. Everybody puts ideas they have as potential grant applications up on the board. We'll get 15 or 20 ideas, and we will cull that down to the top 10.
The initial part of the evaluation is done by the scientific team on whether our science has merit in addressing the need as identified in the solicitation. But that's just the first step. The critical meeting combines that technical review with a commercial assessment or commercial vantage point. So we need to discuss as a team, what is the commercial merit of such a solution? What do we uniquely bring to the table? And what would it take for such a technology to be commercialized? Can CMS do it in-house, for example? Or would we need a partner or a series of partners for this to be successful? What market situation is existent now that we could be successful in or would have to evolve? And we use all of those as filters to help us determine if it's viable for us to pursue this.
Compact Membrane Systems regularly works with universities and federal labs to strengthen its team and enhance its proposals.
We find their contribution is significant. As a small company, we have certain skills, but we don't have all the skills that are needed to do a quality SBIR program. So we've established these relationships to help us. We try to limit ourselves to one lab per solicitation or per proposal. If you try to work with 2 or 3 groups, one, it becomes much more complicated, and 2, the agencies believe it's much more complicated.
Another important connection is the industry partnership, which Erica discusses in more detail.
We often look to new partners, and I would say we look with a couple of different objectives in mind. It may be purely to do basic market research, to understand if they're a user or consumer of this technology or a similar competing technology. We might reach out to understand what's their unmet need, what kind of product would they like. If we brought this to market, would they be interested? We might also be reaching out to find out if a potential commercial industry partner would be interested in going to market with us. So for example, that they'd be a channel partner. And that happens when we use our technology, for example, in the oil and gas sector or in the marine sector.
It takes plenty of time and effort when it comes to involving a new partner. CMS recommends allowing yourself this extra time to secure any loose ends.
In learning each other's capabilities, if I had to use a number for a grant application where I would spend 5 or 6 hours with a known relationship, I might spend 10 to 15 hours with a new relationship, finding out where the sweet spot between the 2 parties are, and then actually doing the work associated with putting the proposal together.
Reaching out is as simple as leveraging our network. Who do we know on LinkedIn? Who have we gone to school with? Who have we worked with in the past? And you reach out initially, you get one contact, they make contact to a second, et cetera, et cetera. It's a virtue of having an extensive professional network that we can then find those people. I think it does take an element of extroversion to be able to pick up the phone, send an email, and start talking to people, but 5 conversations turn into 50, turn into 100. And I don't think we would make nearly the kind of progress we would if we weren't willing to pick up the phone, send an email, and start those dialogues.
The heart of this proposal is the work plan. Stuart details the 3 components inherent in every one of CMS work plans.
I think you need 3 things in your work plan. You've got to show that the application you're proposing is significant, that is of significant value to the agency. The next thing is you have to show that you're introducing good science and that it's innovative. And then the last thing is you have to show that you have the capability and the team to execute the plan that you've already written.
Erica also recommends allowing for flexibility within a work plan, as well as setting concrete milestones.
A milestone being something that you can check off on a list that it is done, not just make something better, but complete a new process so that it yields a product that looks like X. Being able to have concrete milestones like that will enable someone who's running a process to understand if they're making progress in a tangible way. More importantly, in work planning, in particular in areas that involve both collaboration and research, it's important to create a work plan that builds in time and steps for initial failures, rework, new paths. No area of research and no product has ever been brought to market that follows the ideal work plan in terms of every step being successful.
As for the actual construction of the proposal, writing tasks are split between key personnel.
So in the process, we meet very early on. We identify 10 topics that we want to have the letter of intent. With that, we also identify who is going to be the primary writer and who's going to be the primary editor of that proposal. In addition to that, I'll call it our grant corporate people will put all of the components of the facilities. When you list people that you want to have on your program, their abbreviated CV to go in that. But basically, it's two people writing the proposal. One is a writer and one is an editor. And the typical person here, we have about 20 people in the company, will get on average 2 proposals and 2 edits to write.
In the end, any SBIR company knows that rejection is part of the game.
The DOE does a pretty good job of the process that you're given quantitative responses to that rejection, so you can understand what you've done right or wrong, or at least what the agency thinks you've done right or wrong. The DOE is very interested in our technology, but to a certain extent so is the USDA and NSF. So we will write a similar or the same proposal to different agencies. You can submit to different agencies, you can submit to different agencies at the same time. That's allowed. What is not allowed is you can't have both agencies pay for the work. But you take the review and you respond to the review, both back to the DOE and the other agencies.
One of the other things we do in the face of rejection is to understand the context. In particular with the SBIR grant process, it's very easy to say, these are well-regarded reviewers. They put a lot of time and effort into it, and they are smart people, and they rejected my application. So that means the science isn't good, or the commercialization isn't good, or the idea isn't good. And that may all be true, and we challenge ourselves to look at it from that vantage point. But we also challenge ourselves to look at it from the perspective of it may just not meet their needs. It may be great science. It may have great commercial potential, but it may just not be aligned to the direction that the granting agency wants to go. And that can give us a lot of freedom then to say, we did a great job at writing this proposal, it just wasn't for them.
Before joining Compact Membrane Systems, Dr. Erica Nemser worked at McKinsey & Company with a focus on women's leadership. One of the goals of the DOE Phase Zero program is to reach out to women-owned small businesses in the technology sector. We asked Erica to share her insights on women in business.
Women in business often face challenges, some external and some internal to the women themselves. And women more often are perceived or associated with activities like communicating, helping, being supportive, being thoughtful, being collaborative. And while those are increasingly valued in the workplace, those aren't necessarily the characteristics that we associate with leadership. So for a number of reasons, women often have to hew to a narrower set of behaviors and activities in the workplace to be accepted without being perceived as both, too helpful and not assertive enough to be perceived as a leader, or too aggressive and outside the gender norm for what a woman should be and can be in the workplace.
Erica cites mentorship as the key to growth within an organization and thinks that both women and men should take advantage.
I think mentorship and sponsorship both play critical roles for anyone being successful in business, whether it's a man or a woman or of any background. If you ask the most successful business leaders, and the most successful professional leaders in all walks of life, you'll find that almost every one of them will say they had not only mentorship, they had sponsorship, and it was more than one person. It was often a group of people, or their mentors and sponsors changed over time. I don't think anyone gets to be profoundly successful without having someone help them, guide them, provide advice, and in many cases pull them through the rough times. So I think it's, just to underline it, very critically important for both men and women.
DOE proposal preparation is a skill that one can improve over time. As Dr. Erica Nemser suggests, mentorship during this process can be extremely helpful. Along with the tried and proven steps presented here, you too can write winning DOE proposals.